The following is a presentation of the ForceCenter podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the ForceCenter podcast feed. I'm Ken Napzok.
And I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, and this is one of our News and Cues episodes. The Cues stands for questions, and the questions are good, but news-wise, wow, this is an actual big news moment that we get to be a part of, Ken.
This is a life day miracle we get to discuss. Breaking news on the actual day of the news. Wow, that's ForceCenter breaking the curse, Joseph.
That's right. Normally, news breaks either while we are recording or about 2 hours and 7 minutes after we stopped recording. It's usually pretty precise. But this day, I woke up. First thing I saw on my old phone was the Kenobi casting announcement, which was so great.
Yes. And shout out to our ForceCenter Discord folks who always post some of that news in the Star Wars news section on the Discord. And that's how I saw it this morning while making a cup of coffee and said to myself, this is going to be a great Kenobi day. Before we get to all that exciting stuff, we want to remind you today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Over 180,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. A little bit later, we have a ForceCenter recommends an audiobook we think you should try out on us. And we're not done. We got an offer that I know some of you are taking advantage of, Joseph.
Yes, please take advantage of this offer. It comes from Inside Editions. They are the publisher of a ton of great Star Wars books. They are offering 35% off across their website with a special ForceCenter code. You can get your discount by entering the coupon code FC35, or you can visit the website with this link, insighteditions.com/discount/FC35. Now, this week, we are continuing to recommend a book that's coming out on May 4th, and it is called Star Wars Galactic Baking. Ken, I finally got a chance to open the advanced copy that they sent us, and I noticed that on page 79, there are puffer pig pocket pizzas, and I am excited to eat that because I like pizza. It is the best food stuff in the galaxy as far as I'm concerned. And come on, puffer pigs. I want to know if these pizzas are going to just explode in my mouth.
I can finally get my revenge.
You can eat those puffer pigs.
Well, now I actually kind of really love the puffer pigs because that's how Star Wars works for me. Yeah. Oh, look. Okay. I could do, this is something I can do. I could do this. I might try this.
Yeah, this one looks makeable. Even at my low level of baking skill, I'm sure Galactic Baking will talk me through it. And yeah, I just cannot wait to eat one of the most controversial figures from the show Star Wars Rebels.
I'm looking at that, and then the very next day is Life Day cake. So it's a Life Day all around.
It is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So if you want to check out Star Wars Galactic Baking, again, that's coming out on May 4th. It is a great celebration of the galaxy and a bunch of great recipes. You can get your copy from Insight Editions with the code FC35.
Get it, my friends. Get it. It's a gift from your ForceCenter friends and help out the show in the process. Yeah, we get some big news, and some of you probably listening want to get to it. We always like to take a couple minutes to catch up with life adventures and Star Wars adventures because more often than not, the two intersect. Joseph, did you get any life and or Star Wars adventure time this week?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit for sort of direct Star Wars adventures. The main thing for me is I'm reading Victory's Price, the third book in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. Enjoying that. We're going to be discussing it soon. I'm enjoying stealing some moments at the end of the day. I go to bed dreaming about being a pilot in Star Wars because I'm reading that book at bedtime. But for life adventures, my wonderful wife, Sarah, her birthday was last Thursday. And we took the whole day off, which I think, as everybody knows, that can just be really challenging. Everybody has so many different things going on. I think even people who have a day job, it's harder these days to just go, hello, day job. Hello, one job. I am not coming in. You still get stuff from every angle. So I was really lucky to be able to take the day off. And we went to a place in the greater Los Angeles area called Huntington Gardens. I'm sure a lot of people know it. I had never been there before. I talk a lot about Descanso Gardens, which is also in LA, and that's great. But Huntington Gardens was a really great experience for me. They had this Chinese garden, which is this, it's got all of these different buildings and little bridges and a waterfall all centered around a lake. And it's this great sort of like if Disney made a garden is the way
Mhm.
it felt like to me. But then you go through to the Japanese garden, which is these hills and valleys, and you can kind of just weave in these paths that are kind of high up
Yeah.
on top of this valley, and you disappear into these like this more jungle-like terrain that it was in the dark. And because it was a cloudy, overcast day on Thursday, it also had this feeling. But what I'm building to for my Star Wars adventure was just got to spend all this time really letting go of all of the stress,
Mm.
not looking at my phone, just being in nature. And by the time I got into some of these smaller paths where you're just surrounded
Mm.
by nature and you can't see any cables or anything that's modern anywhere, it felt like that moment in Empire Strikes Back when Luke talks about Dagobah feeling like a dream. Like there's something about just being sort of absolutely disappearing into nature that is very peaceful and dreamlike, and it made me think of Star Wars in that way of like I feel like I am meditating. I am one with the Force, and it feels dreamlike beauty. And really, all it is I took a day off and went to a park.
I love Huntington Gardens. We've been there once. Great time. We saw Tatiana Maslany there, and the whole time I just kept, "Are you in Star Wars? You in Star Wars? You in Star?" They asked me to leave the whole. But it's so relaxed. You're so right, and you're transported in so many different ways. I know the gardens that you're talking about there, where you can kind of wind your way away from it all, and up and away from it all, and it's so good. So
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. So that was really great. A great reminder to actually take some time off and, connect with the living force. So that was it for me. How about you? What were your life and or Star Wars adventures?
Yeah, definitely didn't have that day off feeling this past week. The only time I did my taxes or had my taxes done on Sunday, that forced me to have a day off. When afterwards I just sat numb for hours. So that counts, I guess. That counts. It's a little like I felt like I was in Phantom Menace or something like that. But the only thing I'll tell you what, I wouldn't say Grace and I woke up every day dreaming about getting a Roomba or an iRobot, one of those robot or robot vacuums,
Oh yeah.
but we got one because a friend, good friend, longtime friend works there, and he said, "Hey, if you ever want one, just let me know. I can get you, with the discounts. I can give out 5 a year, and I'll give you one." I was like, "God bless you," and you don't again, you don't want something until you're told you can maybe get something, and you're like, "Yeah, we definitely need that." But I'll tell you what, to have this, you get to name the droid, and it's a droid, and it goes around, and I was delayed setting up the podcast because it was in my office cleaning, and you just feel like you're in a Jetsons comic, a cartoon, or you really do feel like you got a little mouse droid going around your house, just going, "Yeah, I'll get that. Don't worry, I'll clean that up for you." And it's been pretty fun to just be obsessed and almost protective and in awe of a droid in our house.
Have you stepped on it yet?
It's no, it's hard not it's hard to miss.
Okay. Is it making a lot of noise? Is it buzzing and whirring?
A lot of whirring, a lot of loud whirring. Our Chihuahua, Baxter, not happy with it. Dog versus droid battles have been happening in the house, which are amusing at first. Hour 2 gets kind of annoying, but yeah, but it's you don't know how much just dust and junk is on your floor until you have to clean out a dustbin, and you're like, I was stepping on this.
This
Oh
is what my feet were on. Ah,
yeah.
yeah. It is so amazing to me that kind of wacky beat in A New Hope where Chewie growls at the mouse droid and it turns around in fear. Is like that is playing out all across homes across the globe, right? Of your friendly buddy, your companion, your dog like best friend is growling at your little droid and telling it to go the other way.
Totally, Baxter is true, but also I popped out of the shower and go in my little home studio here where I record on my side of the podcast, and we named it Vaxie after Ratsy, our beloved Chihuahua
Hmm.
is no longer with us, and Vaxie is in my office cleaning, and I'm like, honey, I got to record ForceCenter, like you got to tell Vaxie to go, and she's like, well, she's not done yet. I'm like, okay, but so I had to wait, and you and I weren't really late in getting set up, but I had to wait for the robot droid to finish cleaning my room before I could start ForceCenter.
Because the Roomba just goes when and where the Roomba wants to go, right?
Well, it's currently mapping our house, which, by the way, is amazing and freaky and surreal in its own way, because now you have this weird map of your house floor plan, but like literally, there's some shoes of mine that went around, and you can see them on the map. Like, oh, that's some Converse.
Does the I don't want to turn this into Roomba Center, but I just want to ask this: does the Roomba learn your patterns of filth? Like, for me, especially my first apartment I had, you could tell where I sat on the floor to watch television because I didn't have enough furniture because there were the pizza crumbs there. Does the Roomba learn there will always be pizza crumbs right here?
It learns your habits. It does. It is next level, because we also have an Amazon Alexa in the house too, and some people have some opinions on those and this and that, and I totally get it, because it is kind of surreal and it is kind of weird. And so now, and eventually, I guess Grace is going to figure it out. You can sync those two up, so the Alexa and the robot are going to be talking to each other, planning our demise.
Oh, they're doing a podcast for sure.
Podcasting. So very Star Wars like to have a little R2 unit, a little mouse droid R2 unit going around your house.
That's amazing. Well, I'm glad you got the Roomba hookup, which is also, I think, a great title for a screenplay you can write. The Roomba hookup.
The Roomba hookup. So, hey, I know a lot of people probably tuning in. Maybe you're relatively new, or it's been a few years since you listened to ForceCenter because you want to listen to this Kenobi news. You're like, why are these guys talking about a vacuum? So don't worry, we'll get to news. But we love catching up because we love finding Star Wars in every corner of our own lives. But on that note, Joseph, let's get to it. Kenobi cast announced, at least the main cast here. I'll read from the Disney press release, and Joseph's going to take us through some of the cast. Obi-Wan Kenobi, the new Disney Plus special event series, starring Ewan McGregor as the iconic Jedi Master, will begin shooting in April. The story begins 10 years after the dramatic events of Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, where Kenobi faced his greatest defeat, the downfall and corruption of his best friend and Jedi apprentice, Anakin Skywalker, turned evil Sith Lord Darth Vader. Ooh, that's some pretty intriguing stuff already. And Joseph, we know Ewan McGregor. We heard a lot of other rumors. We had some kind of soft confirmations, but what do we have for the cast right now?
Yeah, this is just so great. I'm going to dive into the cast, but I'm going to take just 1 second to just be super excited as a Star Wars fan that the reality of this, that this is all happening. This isn't a drip faucet of rumors. This is a big official cast announcement from Lucasfilm in a lovely little Brady Bunch box graphic of all the people, so you can look at them all. And man, it is rare that just the way a press release is written just gets me thrilled. But I love that this press release is really focusing and really reminding you that's what's at heart here. The cast is, the pre-announced cast is Ewan and Hayden Christensen, and we are reminding you that this is what Kenobi is wrestling with, his greatest defeat, the downfall of Anakin Skywalker. So thrilling for that. So, but with that nerdery out of the way, let's dive into the cast. Obviously, Ewan McGregor is Obi-Wan Kenobi. That's pretty exciting. Hayden Christensen is as Darth Vader, maybe Anakin Skywalker. We don't know. They're saying as Darth Vader. But then we get into all of these announcements. I think only one was, pretty heavily reported by the trades in Indira Varma. So we talked about her before, but we'll get to that. But just going through the list in order, we have Moses Ingram. Moses Ingram is really kind of new to the scene, has just had a couple of really big breaks. I just saw Moses Ingram in The Queen's Gambit on Netflix. Did you watch that by any chance, Ken?
I listened to it as Grace watched it. So I was playing baseball, but I heard it. She sounded great as a performer.
She was really, really great. She had, she was, well, I don't want to offer spoilers for the Queen's Gambit. Queen's Gambit, I believe, is also a now extremely expensive Phantom Menace tactical role-playing game that is hard to get now. Anyway, she was great. I thought she delivered comedy and drama and some like very important moments of heart when she absolutely needed to deliver that. So I think that was really, really great. I was really excited by that. And then some big news for Star Wars fans. This is all big news for Star Wars fans. Yeah. But we have the confirmation of Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Pease, I believe. Of course, Uncle Owen Lars and Aunt Beru, White Son Lars. Ken, how are you feeling about that confirmation that this is a prequel reunion?
Love it. I mean, how could you not love it? I mean, I was just watching Rogue One yesterday when Jimmy Smith shows up as Bale. It's just like to go through that era as a prequel fan and to get now where now you see that and be like, yeah, yeah. I'm excited for both these performers. Joel Edgerton's kind of been campaigning for this from the beginning. And if you remember our friend Brian Ward, who does the great posters and artwork, did the ForceCenter art. He did a parody, but like a Kenobi fan poster a couple years ago, and Brian tweeted out today. Bonnie Peace reacted to it and was like, "Oh my gosh, I would love to do that," and shared it. It was like I would never turn down that role. So I'm excited for her, and not, a lot of people are watch that documentary that was on HBO about that group, the cult, whatever and she was part of it, and her name kind of came up again, and in that context. So to see it now, and it's a little bit of a victory there too for her. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, yeah. And how do you feel just about the confirmation that these characters are a part of it? In one way, that's totally not surprising
Right.
given the time period. But do you find yourself really excited to think about what is the interaction? What are the scenes? What's the moments between Kenobi and the Lars?
I want them at that same table, whether or not they go there or not, or it's on the volume. I don't know, but I want them at that same table on the Lars homestead, where Phil Brown as Uncle Owen denies Kenobi's existence. That was just a crazy old man. I want that same scene to actually see that crazy old man arguing with Owen while Beru's try to play it down the middle and keep everyone together on what to do about young Luke Skywalker. That's exciting and intriguing.
Yeah, I think for me, just the kind of emotional truth of this narrative that it can be easy to go like, well, why did Kenobi just sit on his hands and not train Luke, right?
Right.
And it's been developed in comics, it's there other places, but getting to see it on the screen of Kenobi's journey of I trained Anakin stubbornly right away because I made this promise to Qui-Gon and I didn't listen to anybody else about it.
Yeah.
And now that didn't turn out well.
Yeah.
And my first instinct is to train Anakin's son. And then here's these people, these guardians who are saying, you failed once. Take a step back and stay away. And thinking of kind of emotionally how Kenobi would process that push pull between I want to be proactive, I want to train him, but I need to reflect on my failure, and I need to respect these people who
Mm.
are raising him who are saying no.
Yeah, and look, there's some great stuff. You mentioned some of the comics. I think couple stories, and from a certain point of view, the A New Hope version really. Not that we were going around needing justice for Uncle Owen, but this idea of he's the curmudgeon, grumpy, stay here on the farm, you youth character from New Hope, which resonates for generations upon generations. I get it, but to have him kind of be like, I'm protecting you. I know what I'm doing, and I'm doing it, and I was willing to do it. Let me do it, Kenobi. And I don't want to have happen to Luke what happened to his father, who I met and knew, and it was there for. I think that's going to be some really interesting stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the other thing with Aunt Beru is I think it is a chance to maybe I don't think this is going to turn into the Kenobi and Beru show,
Right.
but even in a small way, I think it is a great opportunity to spend some more time with a mother figure, or at least
Mhm.
celebrate a
Yep.
mother figure in Star Wars, because Luke goes through his challenges where he is tempted by fear and anger, but he's got this very solid grounding that Anakin didn't have, and I think a lot of that is because he was raised with love. And Owen certainly really watched out for him, maybe leaned too far into the sort of the fear of the way to never have any problems is to not do anything, stay on the farm. But I just think there's a great story in there where Beru just gave him such a solid foundation of love and support and kindness. And it would be great to even see a glimpse of that to celebrate that.
Especially because she spent so much time with Shmi, and to see what she may have picked up from there, or where they were in sync on views of the world or whatnot. I think that's a great point, Joseph. I think it's a great point to really. It's not just. I hope it's not. I trust it's not, but I hope it's not just that. Yeah, there's these two characters. Like really having a chance to go into some of these big themes. I think that's great, and to trace it. in Luke's life, and we're looking at maybe a 10-year-old Luke roaming around that farm there. It totally would make sense to address that.
Yeah, and I love that you bring up the Shmi connection. That is so important to me because it's easy to go, oh, well, Anakin met this guy for 5 minutes. They didn't get along. How is this Luke's family? And like, I really think that from Owen and Beru's perspective, this kid is Shmi's grandson, and I always like the headcanon that like he is a Skywalker. He is Shmi's grandson, so he will have that name. That is to me, the reason that he still has that name in my head canon. But now we might get some on-screen Disney Plus canon. Moving along, because we could just do a whole episode about the Lars, and we might. Moving on to the next cast member, Kamal Nanjiani. He will, of course, be known to people from lots of great stuff. The film that he co-wrote with his wife, Emily V. Gordon, about their relationship, The Big Sick. That script was nominated for an Academy Award. Of course, he starred on Silicon Valley, and he's going to be in the Marvel movie, The Eternals. He's been in that Marvel movie that is done and just waiting for the pandemic to end so it can be released. So this is kind of a big and fun one because I think a lot of people have a different kind of relationship with Kamal because he's one of these people who his career is really based in comedy, but he's obviously demonstrated his acting chops and his huge love of genre storytelling. What do you think about this one?
I really enjoy it, and it's so fun to see where he has gone, starting out in comedy, and I just love him on our early seasons of Portlandia. Him as the bank birthday loan managers is one of my favorite little bits and sketches on that show, and he has that style, but he's grown beyond them, and famously and infamously in some corners of the internet got real buff for that Marvel role. So now, and not that you just want to cast on body type, you try not to do that, but now 3 years ago I would have been like, oh, he's going to be some sardonic shopkeeper. Now I'm like, I don't know, he can do anything. And I got it. Our friend Mark Knope in Discord, he's the one who said this first, and there may be other people in the universe that have said it as well, but the idea of him playing a grown-up kitster, I can't move away from now. I can't move away from that.
Yeah, no, I mean, that seems like a good possibility. I think we all want Kitster to have turned out with just a great life.
Yeah.
Or maybe he will be a bounty hunter. Things have not gone well for Kitster.
Yeah.
This is such a weird and fun one for me. I don't personally know Kamal. I'm not best buds with him by any means, but I have so many mutual friends. I when I first came to LA, I was involved with the alternative comedy scene. So I've been at many events with him. I've done his show. He's brought me onto stage as a stand-up comedian. So it's really fun to see that transition from this guy I know who is already very successful, when I cross paths with him, but I mostly know him from, I can go to the back room of that comic book shop and hear his super funny stand-up jokes, is now in Obi-Wan Kenobi. And for me, obviously growing up with Kenobi, Kenobi is this otherworldly thing, and it is that weird moment where sort of, real life transitions into the stars, and it's really cool to see.
Yeah, that's great.
Moving on to Indira Varma. We talked a lot about her when she was one of the cast, not announcements, but rumors. Any new thoughts?
No, still the same thought. I'd love to see she could go 42 different directions. She's so talented. I don't want to just regurgitate some great things she's done before. Her great turn on Game of Thrones is obviously something big on my mind as Ilaria Sand. So I could still see her doing something like that and testing the bounds of Kenobi as a fully functional human or humanoid from Stu John down on Tatooine, and just could they have, not necessarily, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship, but just what could she represent for him, or she could be an Imperial officer leading the search for surviving Jedi. I don't know, but she's so versatile and great.
Yeah, and I think that's a big picture reaction to a lot of these people. It is super fun and super tempting to play what existing character could they possibly play? Kitster. Kitster is great. But a lot of these characters are just like, I think that they will either play somebody, people who affect his life on Tatooine, denizens of Tatooine, or people that he will meet and encounter on his journey, because I think Kenobi is leaving Tatooine,
Yeah.
and he's got a lot of people to meet along the way, including probably bounty hunters and maybe some rebel spies, maybe some Imperials. All these people could all be those things, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
And we move on then to Rupert Friend. I know Rupert Friend myself from Homeland and the Pride and Prejudice film that is seminal for many, many people. He's been in a bunch of different things, but those are the two that I grabbed. Homeland's where I really know him from. And he's one of those characters, like from Homeland, his role there in that show changes a lot and is extremely intense, and he's going through lots of horror, lots of tragedy, lots of kind of just funny moments. So charming, so engaging. So I'm super happy to see him in the list. Do you have any viewing relationship with with Rupert Friend?
Other than I'm sure at one point I saw Pride and Prejudice. Yeah, no, I don't. But looking at his resume, it's obviously impressive. And just if you're looking at again casting based on previous experiences or even the promo shot they used, is like, oh, so an Imperial officer for sure. So we have a lot of potential Imperial officers.
Yeah, I think what if all these people, every single one, is an Imperial officer, even Joel Edgerton and Bonnie Pease.
Yeah.
Amazing. We move on to O'Shea Jackson Jr. He is obviously starred in the film Straight Outta Compton, playing his father. He's also in the film Ingrid Goes West with Aubrey Plaza, where it sounds like he's got a lot of kudos for playing a charming, funny character. I have not seen Ingrid Goes West, but I did see Straight Outta Compton, which I thought was great, and I thought he was amazing in the role, and is just an actor with amazing chops. What's your relationship with this actor?
Same thing, and just it's still I'm we're of that generation of when NWA hits and all that stuff, and you're just like, to see it years later, to see Ice Cube's son play him, but you were like, oh no, but they got him to play himself, right? Not that's his son. Wow. Love it. And then, like you said, to show all kinds of range and just become a really respected actor. There's no typecasting here. I'm open to, like you said, if Kenobi leaves the planet, who's he gonna meet? And this is a potential denizen of the galaxy.
Yeah. I think I'm really focused on that. If there's an inciting incident, or if it is just the failures eating at Kenobi and he decides to leave, whatever it is, I feel like a lot of these characters have to be in his journey to find what kind of transport is he going to take? Is there a reason that he is very much aware that Chalmun's Cantina is where to find pilots? Because this is where he meets O'Shea Jackson Jr.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It'd be great
to book a flight. Moving on, we just got a couple more. Sung Kang. I do not know this actor well, but of course many other people do from the Fast and Furious films, which I mean to set aside a very long weekend to finally binge all these films, because I've never seen any of them. How about you, Ken?
I've seen a couple of them. That's not a sweeping judgment of the franchise. They're very popular for a reason. And this is a performer that is popular as well, that is grown in popularity from he was in the Tokyo Drift, the fourth one, which was when you kind of felt the franchise was on the way out, everything. Then the fifth one comes and turns the franchise into much more than just car racing, which people would say the first one wasn't just about car racing. Ken, get with it. And so to see an actor kind of return a role and gain even more popularity and more calls for him to be in other things, to see him get something as high profile of this, it's great. And again, Fast and Furious, pretty high profile, but also to see that connection, Fast and Furious and Star Wars, those are often, you'd think of them as two separate worlds, literally and figuratively in the film worlds. But to see them come together, and I'm just happy for a performer with so many people always calling for his name to be in things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so fun to see with Star Wars. Sometimes somebody will be cast in a small role, just kind of like, I wanted to be in Star Wars, and so I played, an Imperial officer, like we keep joking. So sometimes people will just, be in Star Wars to do some small thing, and then sometimes they kind of they lean into what they are known for, right? So it's fun with an actor like this, where you could be like, he could be an Imperial officer, he could be, the nighttime bartender at Chalmun's, or he could absolutely be a racing land speeders,
Right. Brian Ward again this morning tweeted out a mock-up art of him in a pod racing. Like that could work too. Yeah, you're talking about pilots you meet in the galaxy and everything. Like if you want to go for that. So yeah, there's so much potential.
Yeah, yeah. Then we got two more announced cast members. Simone Kessel, looked her up. She was on the briefly run Terra Nova television show, and then just a bunch of various television and movie credits since the 90s. I am not familiar with her work, except for that one of these kind of actors of like, oh, yes, I probably saw you in an individual episode of this television show, but it was a kind of a day player, one-off thing. So I'm really excited to see. I think for myself that there is such a mixture of people, people like Kamal, who is in the middle of making this jump from being a comedy guy and a good actor to a genre guy and an action hero. And then seeing somebody like Moses Ingram from The Queen's Gambit, whose career is just exploding with these first few roles. And then to see someone like Simone Kessel, who's been in the business for a while, but maybe this will be a bigger break.
Oh, I love it. You and I, probably because we're old grizzled weirdos ourselves, we love seeing Mandalorian. A lot of older performers. I mean, a lot of people still talking about Boba Fett and Fennec Shand. 57 and 60. I mean, we love that. I love it. And she's mid 40s and love that idea of a diverse cast in a lot of ways, including age. And interesting to note, not super familiar with her long resume of work, but I love sometimes looking up and seeing where some of these actors are from. She is from Auckland, New Zealand, and her mother is Maori. So automatically, Joseph, I think she is Boba Fett's sister. And I'd like to submit that into court.
Absolutely. Django asked for 2 clones, it turns out. And we did not know. We did not know. Final actor, and then we can talk about big picture stuff. Benny Safdie. I apologize for the mispronunciation. This is a person that people are extremely excited about, and you and I, Ken, are just bathed in ignorance on this one because we have not watched his filmmaking work. Obviously, he is an actor, but he is also one part of the Safdie brothers, responsible for a bunch of different films, but in particular Uncut Gems, which is very popular. But neither you and I have seen it, right?
Yeah, and I like a lot of Sandler stuff too, but I know I so many people talked about that movie, and I got to again shout out to our ForceCenter Discord. A lot of people just really excited, say this is an interesting get. Probably even more for the filmmaking side of Benny Safdie and his brother Josh, which, by the way, I think we have. Unless you're talking about directing individual episodes, we have a lot of directors and creators lined up for projects. I'd love to get more just done and out there before we start getting more worried about who else is making them. But he's a performer in this series, and I love it. And if it's kind of I sound so old saying this, if it's kind of a hip casting, that's good for Star Wars.
Yeah, but I do think that it is cool to see that all of these people on this list are actors who could play any role because they are good actors.
Yeah.
But there is also a little bit of a continuation of what Favreau was talking about with his choices with The Mandalorian of let's get people who are great performers. Maybe they'll do something similar to what you expect. Maybe they'll do something really different than what you would expect. But because of their fame from different places, they bring this different energy. They bring this different fandom, right? Yeah. And that's really interesting to see somebody like, I love Uncut Gems. I love these, really, daring indie filmmakers. So that makes me more interested in watching something that maybe a fan of their films thinks, Kenobi, it's kind of safe. But wait a minute, look at this cast. Maybe it's not so safe. Maybe I'll check it out.
Yeah. No, well, I'll tell you what. So we mentioned Fast and Furious. What that cast always was, but what it kind of got to by Fast 5, 6, 7, and 8. I mean, some of the numbers they were doing, and I saw a lot of great conversation, even a think piece or two about that cast. The diversity of the cast, and that word diversity all across. Again, who you are, gender, and backgrounds, and where you're born, and age, all this kind of thing. I mean, all of that. But you just touched upon something that series pulled from a lot of different worlds and put everyone in a cast. And so you do bring that in. It is kind of businessy to sound like that. So to have Star Wars just to be like, boom, this guy, that guy, this guy, this cast kind of represents that. from the alternative comedy world to a popular Netflix indie film that everyone's raving about, like that's Game of Thrones, all that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that could really be an underrated aspect of what's going on here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it brings excitement to the project, and it reminds you that it is not, obviously it is Kenobi's show. It's called Kenobi. Hayden Christensen is right there front and center. But it's going to bring in all these different energy and attitude and perspective. And yeah, I think for my big picture reaction, I think talking about the diversity is important. I'm really thrilled. It is just really, for me, gratifying to just look at this graphic that they put out, and on one hand you can just get excited about who's returning. I that's one of my favorite characters from this different property, but it's also just nice to look at a graphic and just go, that's what the world looks like.
Yeah.
And that's what it's about, is everybody getting to be able to see themselves in the galaxy far, far away, that we all love, that we all deserve to see ourselves in it.
Yeah, no, I exactly. You're exactly right. That's the idea, is a reflection of your fan base, hopefully, and the world that you're functioning in. While even though you're in a galaxy far, far away, that's clear in that photo, and clear in what they're deciding to do here, and I like it.
Yeah. So any other big picture thoughts from you, Ken?
Just so excited, and this is we're not surprised that this show's happening. We've known for a while now, and even beyond that, there was strong, just not even rumors, but just strong, like, yeah, don't worry, they're going to announce it soon. It's happening here in town and in the industry. But go back, and someone tweeted out to me. Remember earlier for early ForceCenter stuff, Joseph? We had a "Give Us Kenobi" hashtag going.
That's right.
And we always say, great time to be a Star Wars fan. That has never gone away. Never, despite all the bad things and dark sides of fandoms and all those kind of things, which are very real and things to be discussed and dealt with and grow from. Just as a fan and getting these new stories and to explore it, it's a dreamlike scenario for all of us. And I still like to pause. And today is one of those days just to pause and go, Uncle Owen, Emperor Hayden Christensen, which, by the way, who knows? James Earl Jones could be voicing him. A young Luke. We don't know. This is not even the end, and the surprises could still be coming. But just to know that it's about to start happening. Still got a ways away, maybe about a year or so, right? But production starting. It's a dream, and I love it.
Yeah. So I definitely wanted to touch on your big picture thoughts, but I also want to touch on this is not necessarily everyone, right?
Yeah.
Because I think Liam Neeson is still a possibility. I think, the voice of Frank Oz is still a possibility. James Earl Jones or maybe somebody else voicing Vader. We don't know. But I wanted to ask you specifically about child Luke. By the time that you see Owen and Beru confirmed, do you feel like that is a subtle confirmation of child Luke being seen?
I do. Yeah, I really do. And yeah, again, where the rumors floating around, everything, of course. But to see it just makes sense. Much like I think Luke showing up in Mando 2 or any other versions of some of these characters. If it makes sense for the story, I think it should be there. And I think 10-year-old Luke. That really works for me. I'm not saying you need to spend a ton of time. I'm not saying he and Kenobi have to go, go to the Mos Eisley version of Chuck E. Cheese or something. Yeah, I'm just it makes sense for me.
Yeah, I know we've seen things in comic books, that great detail in Kevin Scott's Kenobi story in the From a Certain Point of View, A New Hope book, where Obi-Wan is leaving him little carved ships that he's carved as toys to encourage Luke's interest in flying. We've seen in comic books and books the promise of the truth that in A New Hope Luke is aware of Kenobi, and they've had some interactions before. Right. I wouldn't mind seeing an actual interaction. I wouldn't mind to see Kenobi. And I know, like I said, we've seen it in comics, but I wouldn't mind seeing Kenobi, have to literally protect him, keep him safe. I don't mind that. But also, I think if it is I think thematically, this is taking Kenobi of how do I move past the loss of Anakin to give him my full focus and my full faith in Luke Skywalker as the chosen one, as A New Hope, even if this is just like the moment in the Rebels episode where Obi-Wan is looking on and seeing Luke from afar. I think we need that moment, because I think this show on the deepest level is about Kenobi fully committing to his mission and his purpose to defend Luke.
Yeah. We've discussed in those terms before, a great turning of the chapter, turning of the pages in Obi-Wan's life. And I'm thinking of, the Twin Sons episode of Look What I've Risen Above, and to have dive into that and to have Kenobi. I love the idea of him being a little frustrated, but still doing his job out here, or whatever that job is. I love him looking back and going, I can't let the failure of Anakin sit. And maybe that's how I save the galaxy, and then having to come to terms that, no, it's looking forward. All those things are potentially in play. And, we try not to lock ourselves into too tight of expectations around these parts. But this series is just inspiring a lot of expectations in a great way.
Yes. Those are my, I hope, responsible speculating. But if I'm wrong, I will let it go. I also still think a Satine cameo is possible.
Sure.
Maybe an Ahsoka or Rex appearance. I'm not as sold that those are like really core to. They'd be cool, but I don't know that they're core to the story. But I think a Satine cameo is possible, but I'm not jumping up and down seeing her in this cast myself.
Yeah, no, and I know there's been some talk. It could have been, by the time we release this episode, it could have been taken down. Moses Ingram put something on Instagram, something about, swinging some lightsabers or something like that. And so now speculation of young Ahsoka or Inquisitor or something, or steals Kenobi's lightsaber. We don't know. It's part of the fun, and we believe in absolutely speculating. Like Joseph said, speculate responsibly is always our goal, but it's just fun to have one of these days where you just don't know and you get to wonder.
Yeah. My final thought, it will echo yours. Of this project has had such a tumultuous life, right? Where the probably accurate reporting that a director had been attached, but there was no confirmation for a film. That great press conference, I'll have to try to find again, where it's right before Solo comes out, and Ewan McGregor's got the perfect Kenobi beard, and people are grilling him about if he's going to be Kenobi, and he changes the topic to talk about the breath mint that he's eating to the great moment where, he gets announced and asks Kathleen Kennedy, can you please ask me if I'm going to be Kenobi again? And he says, yes, with that great release. And then even after that, there were there were some script revisions, and there was the production got moved back, and people were like, it's not going to happen. It's not like this project has had so many ups and downs, and confirmation from Lucasfilm, we're starting filming, we're starting production in a couple weeks. It's real. It's just great.
Absolutely great. What a wonderful time to be a Star Wars fan.
Indeed. All right, Ken, you wanna grab the reins of the news?
I do. Let me take this Eopie of a news segment forward here. We got a couple of little stories to discuss. Kevin Scott, you mentioned him. Man, what a wonderful name in Star Wars now. Here's talking about someone who's been giving us great content, but helping to frame what's coming down the line here. His work in the High Republic is getting rave reviews. And he was on a podcast for comicbook.com, and he was asked about the upcoming series. The Acolyte, as we know, is being developed and showrun by Leslie Headland, among others, but she's kind of front and center of the team. Everyone loves to work on Russian Doll. So they asked about the series and its possible connections to the High Republic era, because as we do remember, they tease the Acolyte coming at the end of the High Republic era. And that's kind of all we got on them. Scott said the series will not be directly impacted by High Republic stories, and the development of the TV series hasn't altered any stories or plans for the High Republic. He says, no, because I think we predated that, because we've been working on this for a good number of years now. So what happened was people were getting excited about the High Republic as we were creating it, which was great to see. And there have been all these other plans as well. But the great thing that Star Wars is so good at is taking the, quote, things being worked on over here, and this thing's being worked on over here. So let's bring it together. So let's pause right there and dive into your thoughts on this news and that quote, Joseph.
Yeah, this is great. I really like this confirmation. It all makes sense to me. I think that I want some shows, like possibly The Acolyte, to just be their own self-contained story that, doesn't impact big galactic events or major characters, and I think that everything that Kevin Scott's saying makes sort of a common sense from what we've seen develop before, that if Leslie Headland comes like, I got this story. She really discussed in that great YouTube interview that it is like, I was really inspired almost just by, the makeup of the galaxy of what if they travel from this planet to this planet and what kind of mystery thriller, story develops from this Star Wars travelogue. If she's got this story and then people are like, oh, you know what era that fits in really well is this. It fits into this exact time span. That makes sense to me much more than the Acolyte is going to be the on-screen finale of the High Republic publishing. I think it's going to be more connections like this is the state of the galaxy. This is, the Senate's really starting to kind of fall apart, or that those great connection levels, even small things like the compass from Battlefront 2 in The Last Jedi, or maybe at this point in the High Republic there's tiny, tiny dregs of the Nile left, and she runs into one of those. Like, to me, it's just much more about what kind of what's the state of the galaxy, what kind of people are running around, more than story points.
Yeah, 100%. And same point of that is you want these creators to be able to tell their stories as we know, or take them where they need to, and keep going back to Favreau going, I didn't know Luke was going to show up until it felt like right for my story to do that. And that's kind of what the story group's there for. It always got miscast as they're the ones handing out the stories, and sometimes maybe there's some specific examples of, you can't do this and this guy's there, but it's a treasure trove of information if you want it as a creator. So be able to connect it all. Yeah. And I never felt even upon announcement, even part of that morsel, that this would be the end of the era, especially since it was it's a publishing initiative, like you said, and we all know. So excited for that there. Excited for what that will allow the Acolyte to just be.
Yeah, and I think that's just a thing for like me to remember as a fan too. Is like sometimes you get really excited about the ways the stories could connect in a big picture, but like the way I've been trying to think about it is, it doesn't happen often, but in the real world, you could set a show during the Prohibition, and that would be a truth of the world building, but it doesn't necessarily have to be about Prohibition,
Yes, exactly. Which sometimes I felt that was Boardwalk Empire, a series I loved, but sometimes I had to work through. Sorry. Side note: Boardwalk Empire Center coming. This Tales of Nucky Thompson. Yeah, he also talked about, quote, other threads of Star Wars coming into the long High Republic era. Again, the High Republic era, we got like 200 years or so here, right? And working towards final points, but again, not necessarily saying that's the Acolyte. But it got me thinking too, just looking ahead, just like, yeah, we are going to get an end of the era kind of story, or all kind of, you said, a final point. That's pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, what I just hear is a great way to zero in on, by the time we're watching Phantom Menace, what's not working in the galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, things that are like specifically in Phantom Menace, before Sheev even kind of begins his first big chess moves of the invasion of Naboo, is, well, the Outer Rim has fallen to the crime lords, to Hutts, right? And it certainly is not, Republic law does not exist in parts of the Outer Rim. And given that the High Republic is beginning with trying to reach out to the Outer Rim, that's a pretty obvious one to me. I think that, the critique that we see of the Jedi Order in the prequels is that they have become overly rigid, and they cling to dogma, and they cling a little bit too much to the worst case scenarios, right? Yeah. Seeing Anakin, a young boy who understandably feels fear and loss, and really responding to that with a nope, we're not even going to consider the compassionate part of this. We're going to really focus on that. This could not go right, so no. So I think there's this, the Jedi become rigid and they cling to dogma. And then I think the other big thing for me is we clearly see in The Phantom Menace, when Padme goes to the Senate, that this institutional rot has gotten into the Galactic Senate and prevents them from taking any sort of decisive action and from helping people in the galaxy. So like that to me is like the world building of how did the Jedi get so rigid? How did the Galactic Senate start to fall apart? How did the Outer Rim fall into control of the crime lords?
I think, Well said, and I think it all leads to the official end of the High Republic era is the election of Chancellor Valorum.
He meant well, but he's just, come on.
And so closes the chapter of the High Republic era.
I mean, his first name is Finis, right? That's pretty final.
That's final. That's true. There you go. Get that right in a trivia competition, right?
I did not, and now I will never forget.
Same with me and Tivik in Rogue One. All right, so we'll keep you updated. I think The Acolyte is just low-key one of our more anticipated series here at ForceCenter because it's so potentially different inside the Star Wars story. Final story of the day, we got this book coming out here shortly called Skywalker, A Family at War, written by Kristen Baver. You all should know her from her work at StarWars.com and the Star Wars YouTube channel, and has a extensive career before that, handling, quote, hard news, he said, with a hard R like a pirate. So an excerpt was released of the book, and this is for me, a very anticipated book. I've called for these kind of Star Wars books or content that just kind of look at this saga we love, much like we do here on podcasts and everyone out there does on podcasts. But to have it done officially from the Star Wars perspective is something I'm really interested. So I was curious about this, and we took a read here. So Joseph, what do you think here about the style and the presentation and what you took from this little piece of the book, Skywalker, Family at War?
Yeah, I loved it. I think it was exactly what is advertised on the tin, and exactly what I hope for. Exactly the kind of thing that you're talking about is let's lay down all of these moments and these beats, and let's tell it as a linear story and find the connections. I really like that it's written like a biography. That it reminded me of actual human biographies that I've read. That it's sharing the facts in the events, and then it's making sort of journalistic deductions about the impact on the characters, right? It's telling us how Anakin would feel about these events, but it's not, written like prose where it is literally going into his mind and we're hearing his thoughts. It is much more like, I read a biography about Dean Martin when I was very young that I really liked because it laid out the facts, but then the author took leaps and said, well, based on how Dean Martin responded to this, and this that I can document, these documented events, I think he probably felt like this. And it feels like that to me, of like a journalistic deduction about how the characters feel about these personal events and these big galactic events. So I love that it's giving you this great insight that I think Kristen Baver is really great at, but it also still leaves room for interpretation. It's like, this is one biography about the Skywalkers, but maybe someday you could read another.
Yeah. And you're already going to see, I already saw some article, Connor, I didn't even click on it, but it's just a headline of just like Star Wars answers the question about the chosen one in this book. And it's not the intention. It's not what it's doing, as you described, Joseph. There's always going to be room, and that's part of the fun to look at it, to analyze these stories. And I'm excited to see what we can learn. I'm excited to see what we can see, but I also just love seeing it all just laid down on the table. And some of it might be for if you're a ForceCenter fan, you're probably already there for some of it. You're going to probably be like, no, I already kind of watched the movie and figured that out. But I thought of the Filoni monologue that everyone loved from the Disney gallery behind the scenes of The Mandalorian, and where he explained the Qui-Gon Maul fight, which is in this little piece of the book they put out there. And I remember the time, like, I've just put that on a few times. I think it's so good. And without a doubt, the man in the cowboy hat knows this stuff. And sometimes the cult of Filoni springs up around him, not that he asked for it to spring up around him. And so it can turn into another kind of conversation about Dave and Dave alone. But to hear that, and remember, people were excited about that, Joseph. And also people were excited because they had never thought about it that way before. And it might seem so simple to fans who are just clued into Star Wars themes and lessons, like maybe we are here at ForceCenter in our audience. I loved people getting genuinely excited by hearing Dave Filoni's take on that fight. Oh, yeah. Wow, I never thought. And I think this book potentially could do that if fans are open to it.
Absolutely. I think there is this huge power in what this book is doing, which is unpacking the story in a linear way, right? When you sit down to watch The Phantom Menace, regardless of when you watch it or how you feel about it, it's a lot of things. It's a fast paced adventure movie. It's got cool lightsaber fights. It is a serious drama. There is, mystery about what's going on. And that's not what this is.
Mhm.
This is the story in a linear way. It's not a mystery. Here are the facts. Here's what was going on with the benefit of hindsight. Here's what our heroes knew and what they didn't, and how both of those things impacted them. So it's a great way to reframe the story. And I know I've mentioned this before. I won't go on and on about it. I wrote. There was interest from James Arnold Taylor about doing an Obi-Wan Kenobi stage show, and there's nothing can happen with that right now, but I had great fun writing a one-person show where it went through this exercise of, well, let's put all Kenobi's events, strip everything else about the films away, and just go through, what did Kenobi experience? How did he feel about it? How would he have made the leap from one thing to another? How would this event have informed his opinion about the next thing?
Mm.
And that is such a fun way to retell the story in that linear fashion, focusing on specific characters. And Kristen Baver is so sharp, such a great writer. I think has such great love and emotion and understanding of Star Wars that I think it's going to reveal a lot of connections between the eras, a lot of connections between the traits of the Skywalkers. I think it's going to pull out big themes and just make them sing. They're in there in the movies, but this is going to highlight them in a different way. This is a different point of view on those big themes.
Yeah, I hope this book gets gets people excited, and I love the little clip here. Is there anything that jumped out at you about that you loved that was highlighted in this excerpt, or anything that maybe even you thought about again for the first time, or thought for the first time?
Yeah, I really liked that idea that what Qui-Gon said to Anakin in this brief moment would be impactful to him, that he would truly listen to that. Your focus determines your reality. The Force is real. You are a part of it, basically. That he would really internalize those things and try to focus on them. And I think that she highlights that emotional impact of Anakin of, okay, I do, there is a future for me, and then that future being ripped away.
Mm.
That I think that's, one of those moments that, like, of course, yes, that's logically what happens in the film. He lost his mom, and then he immediately loses this guy who was nice to him, and then he's stuck with Obi-Wan, who isn't sure about him.
Right.
But this makes you feel it in a different way because we're going through the events specifically from his perspective.
Mm. Yeah, the great use of that quote. And one of the things I loved here, reading from the book here, however, where Qui-Gon saw promise, Obi-Wan Kenobi and many of the Jedi Council sensed trouble. And for me, you and I over the last year, a lot of times, I hammer on a lot of just like the fate and destiny are about these choices and leading you to a point of choice. And to see it just in this, I think we've discussed it and thought about it before, but to see it so plainly here to me, this jumped out as Qui-Gon saw the power of choice and the power of potential, and the Jedi Order understandably wanted to take that choice away from Anakin and the problems that might have caused. And just to see those paths truly diverge right there, and building blocks for trouble might have been in place there. It's something I enjoyed from this reading here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that's what's so great about something like this is that, to me, connects to almost every other story we talked about
Yeah.
today, right? Of, okay, where were the Jedi going wrong? Well, if they saw something that had equal potentials to be something amazing, but also danger, and they lean toward their fear when encountering Anakin. And then that ties to, the High Republic failures. How did the Jedi fall from the High Republic to the Jedi we know in the prequels? That ties to talking about what are we going to see of Owen, who means well by keeping Luke safe, but is also making an entirely fear-based decision of, there's even the possibility that it could go wrong if you leave home, so never ever do it. Already something like this is sparking all of these great connections.
Love it. I'm really excited for this one. Really excited for this book. And it's available for pre-order right now ahead of its April 6th release.
So soon.
We'll be covering it here. Skywalker, A Family at War by Kristen Baver. Coming out soon indeed. All right. We're going to take a quick break, but before we do, an audiobook we think you should try out on us. Joseph, what do we have today?
We are recommending Victory's Price by Alexander Freed. We are going to be discussing it next week, a final chapter in the Alphabet Squadron trilogy, and I am enjoying it very much.
Yes, I am too. It's slow going in terms of reading because of life right now, but of the book so far, I'm really enjoying this one. Can't wait to discuss it. So get ready for that by downloading your free audiobook today at audibletrial.com/ForceCenter. Again, that's audibletrial.com/ForceCenter for your free audiobook. All right, from there, we're going to take a quick break and get to your questions here on ForceCenter.